ISD Board of Trustees to order at 7:06 p.m. on August 4th, 2011. Please join me in standing as Dane Cood leads the board's opening prayer.
Our Father, we are truly thankful for this beginning of a new school year and for the opportunity that we have to be involved in this. We are mindful, Father, for the administrators who have been actively involved preparing for the school year to begin. We ask that you bless them with the encouragement that they need and the excitement of this year. And Father, for the teachers who will be showing up later this month, we ask that they will be excited for the opportunity for all of the new students and be able to have a sense of accomplishment as they work with those students to help them to be academically successful. But Father, we're thankful for everyone who works in our school district, and especially this evening that we have the opportunity to recognize some very important people. And especially those individuals who so many times, because of this indirect participation, we sometimes forget to acknowledge all that they do to support our students and our schools. And we ask that you bless them, help them to understand that how much they are appreciated for all that they do for the school district. Father, we're always mindful of our entire staff, of everyone, especially for those who have had challenges, whether it be with health, whether it are financial issues. We ask that you will bless them, encourage everyone, that they know that you are there watching over and caring for them. And Father, we ask that you'll be with us as we begin this meeting, that you'll give us the wisdom and understanding to be able to do what's best for our staff and for our students. May all of our decisions and deliberations be of benefit and value, but most importantly, your name is always glorified in everything that we do. And this is our prayer. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing as Richard Fleming leads the board in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. As a district, we dedicate all our efforts and resources to the education and preparation of all students. The board uses this mission to guide all deliberations, decisions, and actions. You will get to see all deliberations, decisions, and actions of the board in open session, with the exception of some items which may be discussed in a closed session as stipulated in the Texas Government Code, Section 551, commonly known as the Open Meetings Law. These items typically deal with personnel matters, consultation with our attorney, and real estate. For the record, all board members are present, and we constitute a quorum and conduct business on behalf of the district. That being said, I will turn the meeting over to Dr. Burns for Agenda Item 1A, Welcome and Recognition of Guests. Dr. Burns?
Thank you, Ms. Clyde. We welcome everyone here tonight. We know you'd much rather be outside, right, where it's a little warm out there, but it's nice and cool in here, so thank you for joining us tonight. We do appreciate your attendance, and we appreciate you coming to support this cast of MVPs that we're going to be introducing here in just a minute. Let me tell you a little bit about the MVP program in our district. While teachers are the heart of our district, the backbone is a group classified as full-time auxiliary, paraprofessional, and non-campus-based support professional team members. Tonight, we continue the recognition program called Making the Vision Possible, MVP. The MVP award recognizes employees for helping make the vision possible. These employees support our classroom teachers so our students can achieve to the highest level possible. MVP nominees, or employees that are nominated for MVP, are nominated by their fellow employees for exhibiting leadership, innovation, service, cooperation, and teamwork. During the school year, 41 employees were nominated for the MVP award. Each nominee received a lanyard as a token of our appreciation and recognition. From the nominations, however, 10 are selected to be honored at tonight's board meeting. MVPs, when your supervisor introduces you, please come forward and join Ms. Klein and myself in front of the board table here. If there are staff members, friends, and family here tonight to celebrate this recognition, please stand as your MVP is introduced. Ms. Klein, would you now join me in front to recognize our honored guests?
Ms. Rosie Salinas, if you would join Dr. Burns and Ms. Klein. Good evening, school board members and Dr. Burns. Rosie Salinas has been a respected member of the Central family for 4 years. Each morning she greets everyone she sees with a big, joyful smile. Many teachers refer to her as the hardest working staff member at Central. She is definitely our go-to gal. Rosie works diligently to ensure high achievement for all students. Always ready and eager to lend a hand, she is positive, energetic, and effective when working with our students. Rosie was a career professional in Mexico before coming to the United States. In keeping with the CFB philosophy of continuous improvement, Rosie enrolled in English classes to better communicate with students and teachers. We're always working to help her speak English. She's doing a great job. We are extremely proud of her for going the extra mile to better help our students. Rosie is a bright spot at Central Elementary. She demonstrates exemplary service, leadership, innovation, cooperation, and teamwork. Rosie is a praiseworthy employee who much deserves the Making the Visible Possible Award.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Burns. Angela Whitehead. When I think about the terms making the vision possible, Angela Whitehead truly is a person who would come to mind. For many of you know, there's a lot of work to be done in this district in mathematics, and I couldn't find a better suit for the position, being a somewhat mathematical degree person from Texas Tech. I was supposed to say that. And Angela is always a go-getter. She never complains about anything, even when her back is thrown, because she carries thousands of boxes per year to my workshop. She even sweats a lot when we go out to the back. If any of you want to help us clean the warehouse, please call Angela. I'm sure she'll allow you to do that. An innovative leader she is. She goes behind me, but most of the time she goes ahead of me. She's always a forward thinker and stays ahead of the game with me and keeps me intact a lot. One of my math specialist students recently came up and said, "Is Miss Whitehead your boss?" And I quickly said yes. As many of you know, each year we put on a competition in the district called the math competition that involves hundreds of kids and thousands of parents to attend. I can honestly tell you that Angela single-handedly now, after this many years, does it all by herself. And Angela, I really appreciate that more than you'll ever know. So tonight, I am very proud to say that you truly are an MVP. Michelle Casey. And then I'd like to introduce Janice Caperton, who is also from our payroll department.
feel very fortunate to have two employees in the payroll department present tonight to receive recognition for their outstanding service. These two ladies are just absolutely marvelous. Michelle Casey has been in the district for 18 years, 5 of which have been in the payroll department. Her experience as a school secretary has been invaluable to payroll. She's had the experience of learning to multitask by dealing with principals, teachers, aides, students, parents, phone calls, emails, working with payroll on time cards, leave issues, and payroll data, as well as bookkeeping responsibilities, purchase orders, etc. So she definitely had great skills for working in payroll, although even payroll doesn't multitask that much. Rochelle became invaluable in our payroll department quickly, especially when we began the implementation of the TEAMS program. She played a major part in the payroll implementation and has assumed a lot more responsibility in the process. Rochelle is responsible for paying non-exempt paraprofessional employees, including time cards, absences, and managing all long-term absences for all of the employees in the district. Prepares TRS reports and so much more. I'd be here all night to tell you. Rochelle is very responsible, dedicated, cooperative, helpful to everyone, and gives more than 100% to the district. Next, I want to talk about Janice Capleton, who's been with the district for 10 years in the payroll department. Janice brought 25 years of experience from private industry that included knowledge of business operations and other skills that have been extremely helpful to payroll, finance, and other departments. In her 10 years at CFB, Janice has learned all there is to know about the district's complicated payroll operations, including accounting codes, journal entries, federal tax deposits, setting up and maintaining function code pay tables that drive the correct pay, and budget codes for supplemental pay items. She also has played a major role in the TEAMS implementation and has assumed much more responsibility in the process. One of those roles is that she is in charge of paying all of the professional exempt employees in the district. It's a pretty large group. She also is very responsible, dedicated, cooperative, and helpful for everyone. She, too, gives more than 100% on a basis. Neither Rochelle nor Janice have ever backed down from their ever-changing roles. They continue to have the team spirit and work endlessly along with the rest of the department to accomplish the goals necessary to ensure that all employees are paid accurately and timely. They put their whole hearts into their jobs. I can't express enough how thankful I am to have the privilege to work with both of these ladies. Dr. Bunny, you're next. Sorry.
Good evening. I'm Brooke Porcelli, principal at DeWitt Perry Middle School, and I'm here tonight to introduce you to our newest MVP who makes the vision possible every day, Laura Flores. Laura has worked in student services at DeWitt Perry for the past 3 years. Every day she works with students, teachers, parents, and administrators, and we could not serve our customers without her expertise, professionalism, and positive attitude. In the words of Assistant Principal Bree Fox, she has a big heart. Adam Toy says, she has never ceased to amaze me at how much work she can get done in such a short amount of time. On top of keeping student services operating efficiently, she still manages to keep the assistant principals and counselors in line and on time to various meetings and functions. Most importantly, Laura has an incredible way of establishing positive relationships with students, even those who might frequent student services for disciplinary reasons. We have a few of those. Laura herself says, "I really do love the kids, even the ones who drive me crazy." Laura knows the kids, knows their stories, knows their parents, and speaks their language literally and figuratively. DeWitt Perry Middle School and CFB are so fortunate to have Laura Flores as our MVP. She truly makes the vision possible every day.
Good
Good evening. My name is Andy Burning. I'm the Chief Information and Technology Officer for CFB. It is my privilege tonight to recognize Daniel Herndon for the MVP Award. Daniel is joined tonight by his friend Carrie, and Carrie, thank you for dragging him in here because Daniel's not really comfortable doing this, so it was Carrie brought him in. Daniel is currently serving as the district as the coordinator of business information systems, and that means he's embedded in the business office helping with the Teams conversion. He was selected for that role because of his technical expertise, but also because of his ability to relate to people. Daniel's people skills combined with his depth of technical skills makes him a model for the modern technology. Now, not everyone's impressed with Daniel. A couple of years ago...
He's not comfortable.
I'm sorry?
This is why he's not comfortable.
A couple of years ago when Daniel was working as a technician at the elementary school, he was working in a classroom, and a second grader said, "Who is that?" And the teacher said, "Well, that's Daniel. He's a computer technician." And the second grader said, "He really doesn't look smart enough to be a computer technician." But that second grader aside, Daniel, you've impressed the rest of us with your skills. Daniel's co-workers, many of who are with us tonight, agree that he's a great human being with prodigious talent and a servant's heart. Daniel's a product of CFB, attending Farmers Branch Elementary, Vivian Field, and R.L. Turner. Daniel then attended SMU before returning to CFB to work in the technology department. His parents, John is also in the back row with us, and his mother, who has passed away, are past employees of CFB. But Daniel stands on his own. He has done what it takes to make a mark in this field, become a great colleague and a friend, and has earned the title of Most Valuable Player in CFB. Thank you.
And certainly you'll understand why she's MVP because she has to work for me. And so, Gail Thompson, please come up, Gail Thompson. And we could literally be here all night for me to talk about all the wonderful things about Gail, but let me just say a few things I think really captures why she's an MVP in the school district. Gail's been a member of the CFB ISD team for over 23 years. She didn't have to put up with me that whole time, though. As an integral part of the superintendent's office, she is a great representative of this district. She always has a smile and greets everyone warmly and professionally. One of the major things that Gail has to do is coordinate the process of processing open records requests under the Public Information Act. It's a very detailed job. Not everyone is as patient as Gail is regarding their request, but she handles it with a smile and great courtesy and dignity for the ones requesting. The other thing that Gail has to do with it is she interacts with a lot of attorneys, but she still smiles. She interacts with a lot of multiple requesters and has to accumulate lots of documents and lots of things. It just takes a lot of patience, and we're so blessed to have someone like Gail who can do that with a smile on her face and still get the job done very efficiently and effectively. But that's not all she does. She does many other things, obviously, in that office. She's also responsible for our online board policies, which if you've ever looked at our board policies, they're quite comprehensive, but she manages to keep up with them, coordinate them, and get them in front of the board and administrative staff so that they're easy and coherent enough to manage. We are very fortunate that Gail greets us in the ad building if you come by my office every day. She always smiles. She's very friendly to everyone. She's a great face for the district. I'm very fortunate to have worked for Gail for many years, worked with Gail. That's really the way it works. That wasn't a Freudian slip. That was purposeful. But she really is an MVP in all our hearts and we're so glad to recognize her tonight. Gail Thompson. Recognitions, but we do have no announcements.
It's August.
It's August. It's hot outside. How about that announcement?
It really is a pleasure to get an opportunity to learn more about some of the special people that help us be successful in our school district. And as Dr. Burns and even Mr. Dude said in his prayer, y'all do so much to support the teachers and the other staff here and keep things running, and we just couldn't do it without you. So I need to go on to the next agenda item, Lynn.
Would you like to give them a brief recess at this point?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute recess at this time, but we really do appreciate your time on August 4th when you don't probably have to be here to come spend it with us. Thank you. At this time, we're adjourned at 7:27, and we'll join back up at 7:37.
One item that I know of. One item that I know of. That's it.
At this time, we're going to cover item 2, report by superintendent. 2A is presentation on student achievement. 2B is high school allotment presentation. And 2C is report and discussion related to changes in election law and the impact on district elections. Dr. Burns?
Thank you, Ms. Klein, and members of the board. We'll begin tonight's report with the presentation on the aspect of student achievement, which is an important part of, obviously, every board meeting is to communicate to you about what's happening in student achievement. And tonight, consistent with our kind of culture of continuously improving, we want to bring to you a restructuring effort for student success. And the foundation of this district is about constantly getting better and finding more innovative and better ways for student achievement results. So we are pleased tonight to bring you some restructuring efforts from Educational Services Division regarding student success. So I'll give it to Dr. Mayer for some more details. Dr. Mayer.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. This spring, we've had several pieces of information that resulted in us restructuring some of our staff for student success. We believe strongly that the moves we've made this spring will result in even higher success. We want to share our journey, if you will, with you this evening. This next slide, our objectives, certainly I think you could build a case that this restructuring effort would address each and every one of our supporting objectives and certainly our district goal. However, it's most tightly linked with Objective 1, and that is continuously improving student achievement. I'm going to talk to you first. I have some colleagues here with me that are going to participate in this presentation because they definitely have been key players in this restructuring effort. I'm going to talk to you about the context and sort of how we got to this place and how the restructuring effort occurred. Tracy Smith, our Executive Director for School Improvement, is going to talk to you about the instructional infrastructure. And then Pam Smith and Susan Kelly will talk about literacy and math support and how all of this fits together. Context. There are multiple measures that we look at, quantitative and qualitative data, that really were the impetus for this change or this restructuring. Student achievement data, as Dr. Burns says, we are constantly monitoring student achievement data, and we're constantly monitoring multiple kinds of student achievement data. Equity has kind of emerged in as a factor and an impetus for this change, and we'll be talking to you about that. And then the importance of clear roles and responsibilities for high-leverage instructional positions and how key that is to student success. When we look at student achievement data, as I indicated earlier, we monitor quantitative data and qualitative data. Here's examples from quantitative data, and this is a criterion reference test, and it's our tax data. You will recognize that. You're looking at the percentage of students over a 4-year trend line who have met the standard in reading ELA for grades 3 through 11. Now, you will notice you're not only looking at CSB, you're also looking at the state, and you're also looking at HEB and Richardson. And you might be asking yourself, well, we understand why we're looking at the state, but why are we looking at HEB and Richardson? As you will remember, we have shared with you that we are monitoring our progress with an instrument designed by the Educational Resource Group, ERG, that looks at academic performance index, financial performance index, and then an educational productivity index. In API, that looks at the largest 200 districts in the state of Texas and gives them an academic performance index and literally ranks them as to their achievement. The number 1 district for API is Richardson. The number 8 district is HEB. When HEB combines its financial performance index, it comes out to be number 1. So Dr. Burns is always urging us to compare ourselves to the best. And so in the spirit of transparency, we are comparing ourselves to the best. You will note that the trend line for CSB in meeting standard on reading ELA is flat. And what I can also tell you is that when we look at our trend line for our other subjects of writing, social studies, math, and science, that's not been the case. We have had a trend line that's been continually improving. So that this trend line is flat has caught our attention, whereas we're not significantly below our top competitors. We certainly are not where they are. So this is one piece of data that we monitor and look at. A second piece are our commended scores. We have a long-standing philosophy that we are not about just getting students barely over the line on any assessment. We want students to flourish and do very well, and that means having our students achieve at the commended level. The commended level simply means that students are getting more answers correct on the assessments that they take. A very high percentage, usually 90% or above. Again, you can see that we are comparing ourselves to HEB and Richardson, and although we are certainly comparable with the state, CSB always aspires to be ahead of the state, and we are in our other subjects. That's why this has caught our attention. And this is where HEB and Richardson sort of pull away from us, is at the commended level, and so it's something that is definitely on our radar screen and something that we want to improve. Additionally, when we look at norm reference data, which I don't have a slide for, but I want you to know that we monitor how we're doing, not only comparing ourselves to other students in the state of Texas, but how are our students stacking up when we compare them to students across the nation. And what we find is we are about even in reading. And yet in our other subjects, math, social studies, science, we score above the nation. So again, that's just another piece of information that has been part of the data piece that's caused us to consider this restructuring effort. The next area that I want to talk about that's been an impetus for this change is really about equity. You know, fair isn't always equal. And to illustrate this point, I'd like to walk us briefly through a tale of two campuses. You have Campus A and you have Campus B. Notice Campus A's size, 697 students, and Campus B, 469. That's a considerable difference. Some other noteworthy information on this slide revolves around the percentage of students who are economically disadvantaged. On Campus A, we have 82.8% that are economically disadvantaged, and Campus B, 39%. That's a 43.8% difference in these two campuses regarding the number of students who come to them of poverty. Mobility rate, Campus A has a 27.5% mobility rate, Campus B, 17.6%. When you look at the limited English proficiency percentage, Campus A, 47.8%, Campus B, 13%. That's a 34.8% difference in the percentage of students that speak multiple languages. Some additional information on Campus A and Campus B. You can see that there is a more veteran staff at Campus B, and the staff has been with the district. Therefore, we know they've had a lot of good staff development because they've been with us longer. Campus A is a bilingual campus. Campus B is not. When you look at achievement data, you see a discrepancy between Campus A and B in Met Standard as well as commended in reading. You see similar data in math. There's quite a difference, especially at the commended level, and you see that is pretty consistent theme throughout the data. When you look at nationally normed data for Campus A and Campus B, you will see that Campus A is not meeting the national norm. They're close, but they're not meeting it. Campus B is exceeding the national norm in areas of reading, math, and science. So they're exceeding other students around the nation in those areas. The bottom part of that talks about our response to intervention. You can see that there are more students that are on what we call tiers. Basically, what that means is there are more struggling students at Campus A than Campus B. Now then, Campus A is McWhorter. Campus B is Rainwater. And we have had a tendency in this district to want to give equal services to all of our schools. And what that means on the instructional support side of the house is we have a position that we've called instructional facilitator, and we have given campuses 2 instructional facilitators. And yet, it's pretty clear that Campus A, McWhorter, probably needs additional support. We find ourselves in an interesting position because we don't have a lot of extra funds to give them just additional support. So this is another piece of the puzzle as we thought through these restructuring efforts. Now, let me say this. McWhorter is a high-performing and high-functioning school. That's not at all what we're saying. In fact, when you look at the comparison for their what we call academic performance index, they are beating 147 schools that have similar demographics to them. So clearly, they're doing a lot of things right. When you look at their EPI, their educational productivity, they're beating 179. So we're showing that McWhorter is doing well, but we also see that there's an equity piece with the existing staff and resources we have that we feel like we need to address. Okay, the last piece of the puzzle that was really the impetus for this restructuring effort hovers around our high-leverage instructional positions. It's this third piece really sort of served as a tipping point for me. We have a new language arts coordinator, Ms. Susan Kelly, who's doing a wonderful job. She's not really new to CFB. She used to be at CFB, so she finally came back home, and we're so glad she did. But as we're dialoguing and having meetings about the data that we're monitoring on how to improve it, one of the key things she talked to me about was some more of these instructional support positions. And we know that we don't have a lot of funds for a lot more of those, and we have some other needs that we want to address. But one thing that we know is that we have high-leverage instructional positions on our campuses in the form of instructional facilitators. So that prompted us to talk about some goals with these instructional facilitators of clarifying the expectations on their roles. From a historical perspective, let me say to you that many of the teachers who serve as an instructional facilitator at the elementary level were reading recovery teachers at one time or ESL teachers at one time. And we've sort of restructured and morphed their role to be more of instructional support, trying to address the ever-increasing challenges of student achievement. So we thought we needed to step back, clarify roles, and make sure that everyone knew exactly what they needed to be doing to help us in our goal for high student achievement for all students. We also knew that these roles must support high-quality instruction. And then lastly, we need to make sure that those students who are struggling, those ones that you saw on that tier, that they get really good intervention and we have good safety nets for them. So that meant that we stepped back and talked about everything that we've been learning in the last, I'd say, 5 years about what really is leading to good student achievement. And this particular quote here really resonates with us because we understand that it's critical that we have to have a high-performing coaching cultures is critical to our future success. This quote by Bill Hewlett, men and women want to do a good job, and if they are provided the proper environment, they will do so. We believe that totally. Our teachers want to do the best job they can possibly do. But what we also know is to improve your craft, to improve your practice, you must have coaching, mentoring, and a good support system. Even when desire is high, it is not easy to do. So, with that thought in mind, we restructured the instructional facilitator roles, and we created some new job descriptions. We created a literacy instructional coach, a math instructional coach. Out of these existing positions, we took no new positions. Out of these same existing positions, we created these two, and then instructional facilitators. And Tracy and Pam and Susan are going to share with you exactly what the roles of each and every one of these support positions is in the district.
Thank you. We want to talk just a little bit about the instructional support infrastructure and how we came about the system that we have in place. First of all, Dr. Mayer already alluded to that we went through a process, and that process began with reviewing data. And that data was both hard data, the things that she talked to you about, RTI data, MAP data, tax data, et cetera, and also some soft data. And that soft data that I'm speaking of were some of our instructional facilitators talking to us about feeling like they were a tug-of-war rope. They, on one hand, had boys and girls who they knew needed additional support and services, and on the other hand, had teachers that they knew were begging for additional time to help them to improve their craft. And unfortunately, there are only so many hours in a day, and so they were feeling torn. If I give all my time to students, then I'm neglecting the teachers and vice versa. So with that, we really came up with, we wanted to have a vision for what that restructuring looked like, that we could help the students, we could help the teachers, and last but not least, it's very important to principals, as a prior past principal myself, to have an instructional team that is available regularly to meet with you to talk about the instructional support systems that are on your campus, the instructional issues that were there. And as we restructured, we didn't want to pull that away from the principals as well, because in many cases in elementary school, there is a principal, no assistant principal. And it's lonely. You need somebody else to be able to talk about the ideas and to be able to make the best decisions. So we started with a small team, and that team did a lot of talking, a lot of dialoguing about what things are going well with the system that we have in place, and where are our issues. We came up with, and you'll see in a minute, some job descriptions, but really the job descriptions started emerging as that small team started to get together. Well, if we say that we have issues with being pulled with students and teachers, how are we going to create these new job descriptions so that we don't make people feel badly when they come to work every day? And we then took that infrastructure that we came up with, we took it to principals and said, okay, poke holes. Here are some of the ideas that we have, and I'll show you more of what that looks like in just a minute. What problems do you see? What things are going to be strengths for you? And believe me, they're great at giving you ideas and input and helping you to make it better. So we really have valued that. But that group of individuals weren't the only ones that were important to us. So we also took it to the instructional specialists, because we were changing the way that their job worked a little bit, and of course the instructional facilitators. We want you to know that we were very cognizant of when we change somebody's job assignment, what does that do to them personally, and how will they view the new job delineations that we have come up with. So we had a meeting with them, talked to them in small groups to give them time to ask questions, give us their feedback, and again, they were great at giving us feedback. With that, we then tweaked job responsibilities and looked at what does this really need to look like, because we're now going to take those job descriptions and open them up to all instructional facilitators who were interested. It was funny because as we sat around the table and we said, okay, we're going to have interviews for all of these, and some people said, oh, nobody's going to apply for these jobs, and other people said, oh, that's not the case. I think there are going to be a lot. Well, I can tell you that we had 32 applicants for 18 jobs. So it was most of the people saying, I really want to be an instructional coach. I want to help teachers. But saying I'd be totally happy if I stay an instructional facilitator and working with children as well. So we interviewed each and every one of them, and one of the questions that we asked each and every one of them was, if you were the one to get this position, what support would you need to be successful? And we took copious notes on that question because we wanted to then structure our planning, our preparation, our staff development for these people around those particular needs. And then finally, we assigned the staff. We assigned the staff based on the needs of the particular campuses and the strengths of those particular instructional facilitators who are moving into new positions. So we kind of came up with this system. First of all, before, the principal kind of was the lead for the specialists and the facilitators on their campus. And we said that really needs to come more at a central office level. So we wanted to get the coordinators more involved because they are the ones who are the content area. Sorry, I have a bug here. They are the ones who know the content and the ways to present it best to the campuses. So even though this looks hierarchical, it really is not as hierarchical as it appears. It's just my way of trying to give you a visual to look at. So with a coordinator in the area of math and in the area of language arts, we have 3 instructional specialists. I'm not going to go into job descriptions for you at this moment because the next presentation will give you just a little bit more about that. Those instructional specialists are currently in place. So they were just the ones pretty much who had been there the past year who will continue in that role. And they've had some phenomenal training and will help to lead us well under the tutelage of the coordinators. Then we hired 9 instructional coaches, 9 math instructional coaches, 9 language arts instructional coaches. And again, I'm going to remind you, when I say hire, it was really kind of a reassignment, not anybody that came in that was brand new. And those instructional coaches, you'll see that they're underneath one instructional specialist. We really tried to set it that way so that they all had a common core to come back and speak with, a support system, if you will, to be able to help out. Then there are instructional facilitators that work on campuses. Again, you'll hear more about those job descriptions in a moment. And that, again, is math and language arts. Finally, with our RTI interventions, those are interventionists currently in place. no new people were added for that, and that is only in the area of language arts. We do not have RTI interventionists in the past, nor currently for the area of mathematics. So then, again, with our visuals and the way of thinking about things, we came up with what we call learning communities. And remember that for each subject we had an instructional specialist, so there are really 3 learning communities in our overall scheme. And there is a math and a language arts specialist that kind of oversees, and I don't want to say acts like a coordinator because I don't mean to I don't mean to change the titles with anybody, but they will help to oversee the functioning of their particular learning community. Then within each learning community, you also have an instructional coach, one for math, one for language arts, in each of the hubs, and then you'll have 3 hub schools. Just very nicely ended up that we had 27 elementary schools. If you consider the primaries as a separate campus, and if you consider Kelly Pre-K, and they deserve the same type of support and intervention that every other campus does, so they are included in our model. So each one of the hubs does have 3 schools underneath it, and for the most part, the people that function in that hub stay within that hub. Again, for that support system, because as I'm traveling around amongst those 3 schools, we can start to look for patterns, start to look for trends, and then before you know it, hopefully those math people are talking to the language arts people and saying, hey, dialogue is something we want to work on here, or I'm really seeing an issue with questioning. That's where we want to go with this particular campus. Even though it looks like everybody is the same on here, as Dr. Mayer alluded to earlier, fare is not always equal. We did have to take a look at what are the needs of the particular campuses. If you're on the quarter on this particular system, you're not going to look the same as the Rainwaters. And so as we assigned staff, we looked at how many RTI students do they have, how many students are reading below level, how many students are on level, mathematically, how many students are in RTI groups and how many are struggling. So all of that ended up being a factor in how we came up with our learning communities.
Good evening. I want to talk with you a little bit about the specific roles of specialists and coaches and instructional facilitators and response to intervention specialists. So we have instructional specialists, again, and literacy coaches now, and instructional facilitators and response to intervention teachers. So I'm going to use this visual again because I think it's easier to sort of visualize the big picture that way. The primary responsibility of the instructional specialist, and there are 3 of them, will be to oversee 9 schools, essentially. They'll help look at data, look at data trends, keep track of map data, TPRI data, which is the assessment that we use for K1 and 2 students, reading levels, and that sort of thing. They will be participating in and or leading grade level meetings. So we're putting together new curriculum this year, and so there will be lots of questions and dialoguing about medium of study, and so we're going to have our specialists help teachers look ahead and think about what those lessons require of them and what it is specifically we're teaching. They will sometimes conduct focused walkthroughs with principals and look for a specific kind of thing. They might be looking for the level of questions that teachers are asking students or the amount of reading that students seem to be doing. That might be one of their responsibilities. They'll coach teachers. So we want specialists because they have a high level of expertise to work in classrooms with teachers, so they'll be doing some of that work. And they'll also coach coaches. So the new coaches are new to that position, and the instructional specialists have been in those roles already. So they'll provide help for brand new coaches. They'll conduct in-service trainings. We'll have Monday afternoon trainings, language arts trainings, and so they'll handle some of that. And any kinds of trainings that principals require or request, they'll handle that kind of thing. And they'll help principals and staff help set goals for instruction. The primary responsibility of a coach is to be in classrooms
shoulder to shoulder with teachers, helping them with their craft, helping them move forward in terms of their pedagogy. So what we envision is that coaches will have 3 schools, of course, and one school being a little more high needs than another, so that's where we're going to differentiate for schools that have a higher need. So coaches probably spend 2 weeks out of 4 at one of their high needs campuses, and then 1 week at each of the other 2 campuses that they're responsible for. We have a set schedule for them, so we know exactly where they'll be and exactly who they'll be working with. With the help of principals, they have chosen some of them staff that they're going to be working with. And we want coaches to coach not only staff that are new to a grade level or new to teaching or that seem to need a lot of help, but staff that is just wanting to move their craft forward. So everybody deserves a coach. So that is their primary responsibility. Instructional facilitators, their primary responsibility will be to work with Tier 3 students, so kids that are really, really struggling. Although we might ask them to do some follow-up work in classrooms with teachers, so if a coach has been working with a teacher for a couple of weeks, we might ask an instructional facilitator to come in and do some walkthroughs and encourage the classroom teacher. So there will be some of that kind of work, but the facilitator will generally be working with Tier 3 students. And finally, RTI specialists work only with Tier 3 students, so that their responsibility is always to work with kiddos that are really, really struggling in our district. They provide 45-minute lessons for them, and they're highly qualified to do that. Other questions about?
Yeah. So what's the difference between the RTI interventionist and the IF?
The RTI interventionists will probably never, ever work with classroom teachers. The instructional facilitators.
You're saying the IFs do work with teachers as
they
well?
Will occasionally, yes. They have a high level of expertise. Their primary role is to work with students. They have an understanding of good instruction, so we'll have them do some work in classrooms because they're there all the time.
So they'll work primarily, though, with Tier 3 students.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Thank you.
Over a decade ago, the National Council of Teachers of Math wrote the principles and standards for mathematics and laid out the following vision. Imagine a classroom, a school, or a school district where all students have access to high-quality, engaging mathematics instruction. There are ambitious expectations for all with accommodation for those who need it. Knowledgeable teachers have adequate resources to support their work and are continuously growing as professionals. The curriculum is mathematically rich, offering students opportunities to learn important mathematical concepts and procedures with understanding. Technology is an essential component of the environment. Students confidently engage in complex mathematical tasks chosen carefully by teachers. They draw on knowledge from a wide variety of mathematical topics, sometimes approaching the same problem from different mathematical perspectives or representing the mathematics in different ways until they find methods that enable them to make progress. Teachers help students make, refine, and explore conjectures on the basis of evidence and use a variety of reasoning and proof techniques to confirm or disprove their conjectures. Students are flexible and resourceful problem solvers. Alone or in groups and with access to technology, they work productively and reflectively with the skilled guidance of their teachers. Orally and in writing, students communicate their ideas and results effectively. They value mathematics and engage actively in learning it. Dr. Mayer and I had the opportunity several weeks ago to sit down, and I told Sheila that I started one of my summer math institutes this summer with that, thinking about the journey that we've been on in this district in math. And I told Sheila, I said, you know, when you go back and you read that and you think about how ambitious it was, I remember just thinking, was that even possible? As a young coordinator coming in, sometimes things like that just seemed like it was so out of hand. So I'm going to walk you through the journey that we've been through in this district. Number one, the principals heard Dr. Phil Darrow address the future of mathematics in this country and the immediate need for reform. In the summer of 2007, we brought Lucy West, which authored the content-focused coaching, into our district, who led mathematics teachers and principals in this reform. She engaged us in crucial conversations about effective math instruction and what it meant for this district to move to the high quality that was needed. Lucy continued to work with us in the year 2008 school year by working with teachers and the math instructional facilitators that she's alluded to in the other slides. And what we did was we worked to just deepen their content knowledge, and here we go with this ghost, but that's okay. In the summer of 2008, we hired 5 mathematics specialists whose primary role was to coach teachers. This was also the year, as you remember, I've given several talks before, that was the year we also adopted a curriculum that was tightly aligned to the vision that the NCTM set forth. That's also the summer we trained over 600 teachers of mathematics. During the 2008-2009 school year, the specialists then directly coached teachers on each campus. They met with grade levels to lesson study by using the instructional improvement process protocol. They provided Math Mondays to stay 1 unit ahead of the curriculum scope and sequence. That year, we also partnered with Metamorphosis Learning and brought in Tony Cameron. Tony Cameron coached the coaches, and I can remember when we first put the coaches in, the first thing they said was, well, you're giving all these teachers support by us, but how are we going to know if we're doing it right? Because this is such a new role. Tony was instrumental in, working directly with our coaches and teachers. We were on campus after campus after campus with her side by side us. She helped our specialists really become master coaches. Lucy continued to work 2 to 3 times a year that year and was really then just working with the teachers who were being coached and also the campus instructional facilitators and principals. We also offered again the Math Summer Institute for anybody who was new to the grade level or new to CFD because we wanted continuous learning. During the 2009-2010 school year, we continued the partnership with Tony Cameron. This time, our focus was on getting our math specialists to help us run professional learning communities. The professional learning communities are run at each campus, at each grade level, and they really do lesson study. They sit around a table and look at possible misconceptions prior to teaching the unit. They're consistently looking at the data from that campus to make important decisions. We were instrumental in changing the after-school to a focused tutoring based on the data. They continued with their Math Mondays. And I know if you're here, you hear lots of teachers talk about Math Mondays, and I'm telling you, it's to the point now that, and I'll just give you a for instance. We posted Math Mondays before the school year ended in May. We haven't started school yet, and my Math Mondays are completely filled to capacity for the entire year. So either I have to go find some willing teachers to help us on Mondays to get more teachers in because they really, really enjoy coming on Monday afternoons and getting ahead of the ball game. This past school year was the first time for us to stand alone. Even though I was, still closely tied to Lucy and Tony via email, it wasn't quite the same. And over the years, our specialists have gone from 5 to 4 to 3, as you can see from the restructuring. But what I now have is I have all these wonderful math instructional facilitators that worked on the campuses now as math coaches. And I want to tell you that I don't really know. I was trying to think while I was sitting there. I think there's really only one that has not been on this journey with us through the whole entire time. So I'm very, very blessed to have these people joining our team. They will continue this year with the math specialists running the PLCs, which is the professional learning communities, but they will also coach coaches. So what I want you to know is that on Friday afternoons over at the CLC, you will see the math specialists sitting with all the math coaches, and they will be actually going through the units of study to make sure that they're up to speed and also helping them learn everything that they learned through Tony Cameron's work and helping them become the best coaches that they can be. As you walk today through many elementary classrooms and CFDs, and you're going to see the evidence of this journey. You're going to see teachers who are truly guides on the side. You will see students actively engaged in classroom discussions, presenting their work. You'll see kids writing in journals. You'll see classroom walls that are filled with anchor charts, calendar math, examples of student work. While everything that I'm sharing with you right now seems very qualitative, I want to share a little quantitative data with you. This past year in the elementary mathematics, The percent of students who met the standard at the third grade level was 91%. That's the highest we've had in several years. 41% of them were commended. In grade 4, 92% were met standards and 41% were commended. In 5th grade, 90% were met the standards and 49% commended. I don't stand here today to slight the efforts of the work that HEB does, because they're my colleagues. Teresa Moses, my friend. But I do want you to know that our commended scores exceeded HEB in grades 3, 4, and 5. We want to scream. But anyway, that's excitement, and that's not because of just what the coaches have done, but it's because that the district, I think, has allowed us to put in a model, and the school board and Dr. Burns has supported this. Dr. Mayer's always been right there beside me going, go, go, go. The specialists have worked very, very hard, but when it all comes down to it, guys, it's the teachers that made the district, the difference in those classrooms. And I just watching them move and watching them grow and watching what their kids are able and capable of doing is just overwhelming. We were at 3% below the grade 5. If you look at MET standards, HEB outperformed us by. They have more kids passing by 1 percentage point, but we have more commended. So we have more kids that are really ready for the next grade level, and we're going to continue to have that, grow and grow and grow. So as we continue to gear up for another year of testing, and all of you know that we're about to head into a new arena here, I am very confident to tell you that I think our kids are prepared. I think that we will continue to have kids that can critically think, and they'll be able to look at any text that's given to them, whether it's familiar or unfamiliar. Any questions? Dr. Mayer.
Thank you, Pam. The last piece for the impetus for this change and restructuring really was some of the good work that we've done in mathematics. What we've seen through our professional support roles, specialist roles, and the coaching is we need a similar infrastructure for reading. So that was certainly part of our thinking as well. We've come back full circle here to our supporting Objective 1, and I think we've done that so that we can promise you that it's just not lip service when we say we are continuously increasing and evaluating student achievement. That is what we are doing all the time, and we believe this restructuring effort, we hope to bring you higher achievement in reading. We understand that reading is the backbone of all the subjects, critically important, and we're on a relentless pursuit of increasing our student achievement in that arena, that subject. Questions?
I have one. When we compare with HEB and Richardson, are we comparing comparable demographics?
Well, not exactly. We have we're about 62% free and reduced lunch. Economically disadvantaged, Richardson's about 57, and HEB is 49 or 50. It depends on exactly what piece of information you looked at. Recently in the newspaper, we were listed as 60, and Richardson 57, and HEB 50. We have a larger LEP population than the other districts.
So that's why we might add, though, that under our ERG analysis, there's a regression model that levels the playing field. So when we're saying that they're comparing them on their academic performance index, they are competing with us just like we're competing with them with a level playing field. So they're still a competitor we've got to shoot at because they're getting results.
The numbers that you saw are apples to apples, numbers to numbers. But as Dr. Burns indicates, on ERG, their API, when we compare our API, we were 17th out of 200 schools. When they compare to their API, Richard was number 1. That is an apples-to-apples comparison due to the regression, linear regression.
But we're talking about LEP children that we have more of.
Yes.
And then either one of those two districts.
Right. equity.
Which I would think makes a huge difference when we're comparing three districts in percentages. I think it makes us look even better than them in the long run.
I think you make a great point, Ms. Watton, that the fact that we're getting that kind of results from kids who, by the nature of a limited English, are still progressing at a pretty high rate. It's pretty phenomenal. It's a testament to our teachers. They're doing a great job. And the coaches and the facilitators and the specialists and the coordinators. I mean, everybody, I can't tell you, everybody in this district is committed to student achievement. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a team effort, and I believe that the restructuring efforts that we have put in place, we're now in the second year, next year will be in the third year in our dual language program, will in the future net us higher achievement in all of the subjects. That's a prediction I will go on record as making.
So it's going to better define the instructional facilitator's job.
You know, when we wrote the instructional facilitator position, we definitely had the word that they were going to coach teachers. Mm-hmm. But what sort of happened over time was they ended up being pulled into doing lots of different things, and the role wasn't looking the same on right. every campus. And so we've just pulled back and said, let's clarify these roles and what they absolutely need to be doing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, here's what's been so exciting. Our teachers, when they ask who would like to be coached, to be volunteered to be coached, they're also eager to have a coach. And it just speaks to the spirit of this district. Everyone wants to get better. Everyone knows that we can get better always, and they want that feedback. And it's not about that anyone needs a coach. People deserve a coach. This is difficult, complex work, and they deserve this kind of support. You know, we talk about an infrastructure. You will hear me use the language, we need an instructional infrastructure to really move our student achievement forward. That's what we're describing to you tonight, the infrastructure. And I will say to you, we have a stronger infrastructure at elementary. Perhaps we need it. We're weaker at secondary. This is an area that I think we need to really think through what's that infrastructure, because we have to continually be addressing teachers' craft and their pedagogy, as Susan said. Because when you look into the research, what's most effective in getting student achievement, there are three factors always cited. And number one is teacher pedagogy. And that surprises people somewhat. You know, they think it's going to be their knowledge of the content. But number two are the relationships they can build with students. And number three is content knowledge. So it's critically important that we have an infrastructure where we systematically are improving teachers' pedagogy in the classroom. And I think we have the will. That's without question.
Dr. Mayer, you've used the term pedagogy a number of times, and I would bet you money that there are a lot of people that are listening to this or will listen to this who are not familiar with what that means.
Those are the strategies that teachers use to teach children, how they design the lessons, how they design the activities. It's the instructional design strategies in the classroom.
Thank you.
So did you also, I'm confused now, restructure for secondary, or is that something you're working on next? Is this all elementary?
This is all elementary. This is all elementary.
Working on it.
You're thinking right the way I'm thinking. It's on our things that we need to address. We have restructured how we are using some of our federal funds and been able to add some of the instructional specialists to the middle school level for next year through some federal funding and moving some things. But I think this is still an area of growth. And you know, we know that those teachers all need coaching as well.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. We use the word deserve a lot. They deserve things. And I hear it on television a lot, and I always kind of bristle. If you don't deserve stuff, you earn it. But I think in this particular case, our teachers are working really, really hard, and they deserve support to help make them better. And
our children deserve that as well, our students. I mean, the product that we want to have at the end of the day is a student who is qualified to graduate, academically ready to go on. And that means that we have to support them. And that I'm really pleased from that particular perspective that we've come up with a way to recognize and quantify the issues between equality and equity. Because we've all known logically, if we think about it, that it's easier to educate some children than it is others. They come to school better prepared. And that's no fault of the child, and oftentimes it's no fault of the family, but we've got to help all of those kids. There is a fear in some parents' hearts, some people's hearts, that if you address equity as opposed to equality, then those children that are ready, that are more prepared to learn, are going to be shortchanged. And that's one of the things that I think we have to, as we talk about this, as we address this, we have to speak to those fears. Go ahead.
May I?
You may.
Okay. And you've probably heard us, both Dr. Burns and I, mention this before, but you know, one of the best thinkers in our field right now is Dr. Richard Elmore, and he's a professor at Harvard. And sometimes they give him a sabbatical, and he just writes for all of us to read his brilliant writing, and he is brilliant. He tells us that he will show us schools where they are getting some of their student achievement through social capital. Students that come from high SES families prepared with deep background knowledge. And then he said, I'll take you to some schools to show you high student achievement with students of poverty. And they're getting it through instruction. But he said, here's the really interesting thing. When there is excellent instruction, even the high SES kids soar higher.
Correct.
No one loses from high quality instruction. Everyone is a winner, and even the students that bring a lot of social capital can learn more, can learn deeper, and have higher achievement. So the commitment to high quality instruction is a benefit to all students regardless of where they come from.
You're absolutely correct. And we saw this same effect in the late 80s when we had to do away with gifted and talented pullout with the ACE program. So that was due to money, but what the district did at that time was to teach every teacher how to deal with gifted and talented children and how to differentiate from that. And I believe as a district our children profited from that, all of them.
Could I ask, Susan, I love the idea of coaching because we've seen it work in the math area, and I think the teachers are hungry for this. Will it replace the model classroom?
Well, we haven't brought the model classroom back to fruition this year. I think...
Susan, would you mind going to the mic, please?
You better go to the mic, Susan.
Yeah, the idea of coaching is really to work with teachers within their own classroom with their own children, which is really, really powerful. So always a visual of good teaching is a good thing, and that model classroom was just that. But I think helping teachers using what's called a gradual release of responsibility model so that a good literacy coach would provide a teaching demonstration for a teacher for a session or two, and then teach shoulder to shoulder with the teacher, sort of literally whispering in their ear, say this, do this, notice the children are doing this, and then gradually release the responsibility of that kind of teaching so that the coach is there as a support if the teacher, doesn't know what to do or what teaching move to make next, but the teacher is handling most of the work. And then finally, the literacy coach would really just observe the teacher and give the teacher formative feedback about their teaching. So we feel like that coaching model is going to shift teachers forward faster, probably.
Well, what I like about it is that it takes away that old stigma of non-negotiable. And what I see happening with the coaching as opposed to the model classroom is that the teachers are going to be able to use their own creative ways of teaching the content and the COL, but I don't see that they can have any excuse now to come to argue that they're not able to teach the way they want to teach within the guidelines of the curriculum. Right. By having somebody that will be able to coach them but be able to use their own way of doing things.
Right. I think offering that really good support and scaffolding for teachers that we do with children too. So it's just sort of layered.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Dr. Mayer, thank you. I think we look forward to seeing this program and watching it and possibly grow further.
Thank you.
Dr. Burns, I was going to ask if I could introduce the audience for guests announcement before you go on to the next item. I wanted to discuss item 3A as audience for guests. We're not there yet, but we'd like to give you an opportunity to fill out the form. The board encourages comments from the citizens of our district or from district employees. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or as a representative, may do so when we get to 3A. To speak during audience for guests, you must fill out the form that can be found on the table just outside the door to the boardroom. Please give the completed form to Ms. Sharon Scrivener here at the table waving her hand. Thank you.
Ms. Connie, ready to proceed with the second part of our report tonight is on high school allotment. So I'm going to ask Dr. Mayer to give you all of the pertinent information regarding the use of high school allotment funds in CFC. Dr. Mayer?
Thank you, Dr. Burns. This is an annual report to note our progress on moving the metrics at high school allotment funds and how we are addressing those. Again, supports all objectives, but most closely Objective 1 and Objective 4 of our supporting objectives. If you will recall, high school funds were created to address college readiness. They were to address making sure that all students have opportunities to be in advanced classes, having rigorous coursework. These funds can be used from grades 6 through 12, but it's really about making sure that we are graduating students that are prepared for the next level of whatever their pursuit is going to be after high school. Some of the metrics that we look at when determining if we're being successful include percentage of students that are graduating from high school, and we do this in a couple different ways. We look at our PEAMS data, and if you remember our PEAMS data, that includes all students, and then our AEIS data looks at students who are here on what we call snapshot, which is usually the last Friday in October, who are here from that moment forward. You can see at the trend data that we've made some progress here in the students who are graduating from high school, either all students or the completion rate. Remember, completion rate are students who have been here through a 5th year, or it's taken them longer than 5 years, but they are staying with us till graduation. And the actual graduates are those students who have graduated within a 4-year time period. Some of the metrics that high school allotment money has funded that we believe are contributing to this success and the metrics improving are AVID, our Read 180, and the support positions. We don't have a lot or as many of these, nearly what we have at elementary, but we do have a couple of positions of instructional specialists, and we believe they contribute to good data at the secondary level. We also, another indicator that high school allotment funds address is this whole notion of getting more students involved in taking advanced classes. And you can see from the all student data, that PEAMS data across the top, and again, this is in grades. These data, the top line, on grades 6 through 12. So you can see in 07-08, we had 47% of our students that were taking at least one advanced class, a pre-AT, AT, or IB class. And you can see in 9-10 and 10-11, we're up to about 60%. We're really proud of that because we know that really is going to prepare them for college. It's a little more rigorous academic experience. Dual credit, we're continuing to increase our dual credit options, and of course our AP courses and IB. This only has AP in it, but we include our AP and IB options. We look at the work we're doing in early college high school and in IB and METSA. We are spending some high school allotment funds there that hopefully are impacting these data. Another performance goal indicator for high school allotment money looks at percentage of students graduating on recommended high school program or the Distinguished Achievement Program. As a district, I believe we struggled a little bit here, but we have really been working on this. You can see the 10-11 data. We have more students graduating on recommended or the Distinguished Achievement Program than we ever have had, and we want to continue to increase that. And again, Advanced Academic Services plays a big role here in our support positions, as well as the work we do on NWEA, which is really some of our MAP testing. We also look at exit level tax data. This data does not look as good, but I can tell you that it's following the trend line of the state. Seems like when we dip, the state dips too, and we have dipped here. Let me remind you what these data are made up of. These are the percentage of students who scored a 2200 scale score, which a 2100 scale score is passing, so they're above passing, but also made at least a 3 or above on their writing. Remember, our writing is holistically scored. It's from a 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you have to have at least a 3 to be considered college ready, and so that's an area that we continue to work on. These are the different positions and different programs that we believe we are giving some of the high school allotment money to that we hope will impact these data. Math, also on the exit level test, the tax, we have increased here, certainly where we were in 07, but we still have a long ways to go. All those kids that are taking investigations at elementary with Pam, they're coming up through the system, and we're continuing to press on our math achievement. These, again, are positions that we fund with the high school allotment money that we believe are impacting these metrics. This is Mr. Hyatt's slide. Those are all dollars up there.
It's a relatively simple illustration, and Dr. Mayor's done a really great job in doing a pretty awkward presentation. This is a statutory requirement that we present to you, the results of the investment of high school allotment funds, and trying to connect all of the dots is a little bit awkward, but I think this is a pretty good job. And she's ran down through the list of programs that we invest these funds in, and some of the resulting metrics and some of the resulting information that's not directly linked to high school allotment, but they are the results that we're expecting out of the whole process. What you got before you now is the 3 years past 3 years for 08, 9, 9, 10, and 10, 11. I'm sorry, 08, 09, and 9, 10 are the actual expenditures for those years. 10, 11, and 11, 12 are the current budget and the proposed budget for next year's use of the high school allotment funds. The state's been a little bit inconsistent in their commitment to continue the high school allotment program, but it does look like they're going to at least maintain it for one more biennium. You can see we've got $2.7 million the first year. Let me rephrase it.
The amount of money that we actually get is relatively consistent, but we can carry over from year to year, so money we don't spend in one year might roll over to the next, so that's why the numbers change a little bit. But I spent 2.7 in 08 and 09, 1.8 in 9-10, and 1.9 in 10-11, and plan on spending about 1.9 in 11-12. The legislature and the state combines these funds into a general funding allotment that we get from the whole state, so it really doesn't change the total amount of money we get, but they do direct this specific amount to high school programs. Any other questions?
Are there any questions? I think that was a good report, and we appreciate the update.
Okay, Ms. Klein, members of the board, we have one other report tonight under my area, and that's regarding the change in the election law. If you read about with the past legislative session, and so I asked Mr. Hyatt to do some research, and he's talked with, obviously, some of our counsel, our attorney, as well as Dallas County elections. So he's got some news to share with you tonight regarding that new law. Mr. Hyatt?
Thank you, Dr. Burns. When this issue originally came to our attention, we had actually had quite a high level of anxiety, to be real honest, because it looked like it was we were going to have to change some of our processes. And because it was the indirect result of a change in the legislation that originally had a very noble goal. And the original noble goal of Senate Bill 100 was to allow a longer early voting time in certain elections so that our voters that were out of town, particularly our servicemen that were overseas, would have an opportunity to have their votes cast in a meaningful way. Unfortunately, in doing that, they extended the voting times for primary elections in even-numbered years to extend over into the time frame of your board elections in May. Because those primary elections were going to extend during the same time period as our regular board election, those primary early voting time limits were going to extend over the same period of your election period. We were initially told by Dallas County Elections that they would not be able to continue to administer our elections. They were going to have to administer those primaries, and they couldn't facilitate both elections at the same time. We went through quite a bit of research to consider alternatives, and I think I've indicated what some of those alternatives were in your packet, but unless we really want to explore the issues, the short answer is just recently Dallas County has reevaluated their position. I think they reevaluated because of some pressure from a lot of different sources to decide that they probably would be able to continue administering our elections even in those even-numbered years. It will come with a little extra cost because they're going to have to be managing two elections at the same time, and they'll have to have additional equipment and some additional staff to run it. So our costs will increase to some degree. They actually don't have an estimate yet, but I candidly don't think that increased cost would be so substantial that we wouldn't want to continue operating with them. And then probably the only logistical issue is that they were probably going to reduce the number of early polling locations just because there's just so many places with two elections going on. And it's very high probability that we would no longer continue to have early voting location here in this administration building. I may be speaking just on my own behalf, but I don't think that is a dramatic change to us because we've had in the past there's actually been some dialogue that having early voting in our own administration building could have been somewhat intimidating to some voters anyway. So having an independent early voting location at least has some merit that has a more a heightened sense of independence for voters to go. The probable early voting location for our area would be the Josie Ranch Library, which would be relatively convenient and relatively central. Some of our other cities and other school districts have a little bit higher level of concern because in reducing those early voting locations, there are some voting entities that may not have an early voting location within the entity itself, which causes them some anxiety. And I believe Dallas County is still going to review and consider some alternatives, but right now that's the negative concern for some other entities, but not us. If we don't continue to have our elections administered by Dallas County, and that's a choice that we have, even though Dallas County will allow it and be able to support it, we always have the option of not using Dallas County. If we don't use Dallas County, the options would be to bring the election operations in-house, manage them ourselves. I guess theoretically there's an option of having an alternative third-party entity, but I'm not sure who that would be. There's a couple of options that have been discussed, but none that are currently in existence. So it would be creation of something new. We have, in my experience in the district, actually ran our own election. It was around 23 years ago was the last time we did it, so I hate to admit that our expertise is probably not quite what it should be. I think it would be a really, very difficult process to ramp up, at least in the first year or so. And even though, as I've mentioned, Dallas County costs have gone up, I'm not really sure that the increased cost at Dallas County would be as high as our cost would be to create a department to run elections. I also think it's very inefficient to create a department to run elections. It probably really only would need to exist for a few months of the year. So we would have to kind of create a blended use of those resources. I think in the memo I've given you and the background material, I hope I've covered most of it, and I hope that was a good enough summary, but if there's any questions or further concerns, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Mr. Shore? Dallas County apparently will be able to administer the election as they've done in the past. I'm going to ask about Denton County, or is that not an issue?
I think I understand your question, and let me answer it two ways.
Can Denton County administer their portion of the election?
Currently, Dallas County administers our election in Denton County. They're able to extend their boundaries beyond the county lines for purposes of contractually administering our elections. So it's a little complicated because Denton County election still maintains the voter registration information.
The fact that we're in two counties for these purposes is irrelevant.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I would like to make one comment, though, is since Dallas County was seeing this as problematic, one option would have been to ask Denton County if they would have assumed the role. And while they haven't quite worked it out, I got to just, for your information, politically and as far as the relationship with the county administrators, they were very, very helpful, very, very open to discussion. Indicating it would be probably problematic and difficult. But I think it's a compliment to them that they were open and interested, at least trying to help if they had to.
When will we know for sure?
The county, while not having anything in writing, and we really won't have any contractual commitments from them till actually probably the early spring, they have verbally committed that they will be able to do it. And they're just working out the details. They sent to us a list of polling places and early voting locations, asking for us to confirm that those locations would be acceptable to us. Currently, the day of election polling places are no different from last year, with some exceptions of how we've had to move some from Crosby Rec to Central Elementary School because of Crosby construction, but that has nothing to do with this issue. So I believe with some reasonably high degree of confidence they've already made that commitment verbally.
So we can't have elections in May.
We can't have election in May unless something changes. We'll continue to monitor it through the fall. And we've got another meeting scheduled with them next month to finalize some information. But again, verbally, they've made a commitment that they will handle the election.
Ms. Chaffin?
Am I correct in the assumption that there will be a polling place at least one in every city that we serve?
There will be a polling place in the day of the election. There may not be an early voting location in every city we serve.
Okay. When you're having those conversations, can you be sure to come back and let us know about that?
Okay. I can tell you right now, in the initial listing, probably the one that causes me and I've been in contact with the city secretary, there's currently not an early voting location scheduled for the City of Farmers branch. I think there will be a lot of discussion with the county and the city before that's resolved. But that was their initial. That's probably the city that creates the most obvious.
But there would be a polling; it just wouldn't be an early.
On day of the election, there would be normal polling locations. I think the polling locations are in the City of Farmers Branch on day of. It's actually in City Hall and at Mansky Library. Early voting for the City of Farmers Branch in Dallas County's initial list of locations, their early voting would have to go to either Josie Ranch Library or to Irving City Hall. Those would be the two closest locations. I'm not, again, talking to the Farmers Branch City Secretary, she's not thinking their city council is going to be real happy about that.
Yeah, there's liable to be some angst about that.
Yeah, I just guessing, I think they would not be happy about that.
Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Goose?
Mr. Hyde, as you look toward the future, is this not something that may be taken up by the next legislative session?
Without a doubt, it will be taken up. I don't think they ever intended to create this problem. Because it's only an even-numbered year problem because of the way its primaries fall, once we get past 2012, the problem doesn't really occur again until 2013, and between then and now, there will be another legislative session that I believe they'll work it out. But this actually is indirectly the result of some federal legislation, so it's going to take a little bit of creative thinking at the state level to resolve the problem, and may require some federal consideration too.
I think that is really the best we can hope for, and I think that the model of using the elections run by Dallas County has worked well because it is simpler for the voter to understand.
Having been here when we ran our elections, I was in the district, I believe, for 2 or 3, I think it was 3 elections, one of them being a bond election. I'll tell you, there are numerous issues related to internally running an election. You being the political element of our operation, understand having your staff collecting and counting the votes for your election might not be the thing we want to do. It just has all kinds of overtones of, do you really want to be counting the votes of the people that you work for? I mean, it was often...
Dr. Burns can't run, I don't think.
But he's one of the, would have been the one that would have been indirectly responsible for counting votes. So, that alone is a reason we probably, it has some problems with bringing it in-house. The others are just the logistics. The way we did it 20 plus years ago, candidly, we had boxes with paper ballots. You marked a mark on the paper ballot, stuck it in the box, and we took it in the back room and counted it and called it an election. The world has changed a lot in 20 years. We're a little bit more sophisticated. We hold the standards of elections a little bit higher, and it would take a lot more sophisticated structure to run a good election, and I think you deserve a good election.
Mr. Goode?
Quick question. Have you been in discussion already with the City of Farmers Branch about this issue?
I actually talked to the City Secretary's office today. The City Secretary herself is out of town right now, but I talked to her, one of her assistants, and I talked to the City Secretary at the Dallas County election. She's confident that Farmers Branch will want to maintain a relationship with Dallas County. She's also pretty confident that they're going to be pretty aggressive in trying to get an early voting location in their city.
Yeah. Okay. So, in other words, we can sort of just sit and let Farmers Branch take the ball and run with it.
In reality, it's not our issue to deal with, but for us to have a friendly neighborhood interest and concern in their problems is fair.
Mrs. Chapman?
Back to the point about the legislature relooking at this, I'm hopeful that they will. However, I was at Texas Summer Leadership the night that this was voted on, or the night before it was voted on, and had a number of conversations with both the Texas Association of School Boards, Governmental Affairs and Governmental Relations representatives, as well as some of the legislators, and they all said that they knew it was complicated, they knew there were potential problems, but they thought it was the best thing that they could do and still be in compliance with the federal legislation. So we may or may not get some improvements.
I think you're right. The other, even if we don't get any improvement, I think given some time for the county to absorb this change, I think it's real possible in 3 years that we look back and say it's not as big a deal. I think the trauma of the short term, all of a sudden you're going from running one election to running 2 elections in the same time frame. I think Dallas County was just a little bit caught off guard as far as them running it, and probably they may have announced their inability a little quickly, to be real honest. So I think they'll work themselves out to a large degree. Just acquisition of additional equipment will solve some of the problem. Once they acquire that equipment, they won't have to do that again every year.
Right. Well, you're right. I think from a school district perspective, all of the school districts that were very, very concerned about this impact, one of the reasons that we were all so concerned was Dallas County's statement that they could not run dual elections. And I think that there were other election agencies in the state who were saying the same thing. So if it is that Dallas County can, in fact, handle that, that's good for them, and hopefully that will address our issues. I'm not sure that other election agencies have come to the same conclusion.
I think Denton County, I believe, is pretty comfortable in their situation, at least that the administrator I talked to was. The other thing that we'll be dealing with is something that we overcame when we were with Dallas County to some degree. This will recreate the situation of multiple polling locations during the same time frame. Someone may get up and go vote in the Republican primary or the Democratic primary at one polling place, and then tomorrow get in their car and go to a totally different polling place to vote for the school board election. And we all know knowing where you vote is sometimes difficult anyway. Knowing where you vote 2 different places, maybe it will make it more complicated. So we will make greater efforts at communications, but still it will still be confusing because in the same paper there may be an ad that shows voting locations on the same time period in 2 different places,
which would further contribute to voter fatigue.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That concludes our report tonight, Ms. Klein, so we'll give it back to the board for board operations.
Ms. Scrivener, under item 3A, audience for guests, are there any audience for guests?
I have none.
At this time, I'm going to take a brief 5 to 10 minute break to let any of our visitors that would like to leave right before we get to consent agenda and further presentations leave. So, and it is 8:57.
Probably. Districts and stuff like that. I like this.
I'd like to call the meeting back to order at 9:04 with item 3B, consent agenda. The consent agenda is a mechanism that the board uses to approve a number of routine items together with a single vote. These items are routine in nature, and the board has had ample information in advance about these items. Tonight, our consent agenda item is 3C, 1, election of personnel action. 3B2, review TASB Update 90 legal policies and add, revise, or delete local policies. 3B3, consider revision of board policy DFF local, first reading. 3B4, review proposed changes for policy EHBB local as recommended by TASB Policy Service and District Administrative Staff, first reading. 3B5, consider out-of-state travel requests for Creekview Mock Trial Law Academy to travel to New York City October 20th through 24th, 2011 to attend the Empire Mock Trial International Invitational. 3B6, consider out-of-state travel requests for Creekview High School Department of Dance Moving Ground Dance Company to travel to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, March 7th through 11th, 2012 to attend the 11th National High School Dance Festival. 3B7, consider financial reports for May and June 2011. 3B8, consider quarterly investment report for the quarter ending May 31st, 2011. 3B9, consider donation of gifts to Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD. 3B10, consider RFP number 11-05053-0 grounds-lawn chemicals. 3B11, consider RFP number 11-06-081-2 for printing services. 3B12, consider RFP number 11-05-101-3 for concrete and asphalt. 3B13, consider RFP number 11-05-181-2 for trash can liners. 3B14, consider RFP number 11-06-243-1 for sheet music. 3B15, consider RFP number 11-06-241-1 for musical instruments and supplies. 3B16, consider RFP number 11-06-242-1 musical instrument repairs. 3B17, consider RFP number 11-07-121-3 armored car services. 3B18, consider RFP number 11-06-231-3 property and casualty insurance. 3B19, consider approval of purchase of Plato learning software. 3B20, consider purchase of standardized testing materials. 3B21, consider approval of purchase of 2011-12 online resources. 3B22, consider approval of purchase of student nutrition serving area renovations. 3B23, consider acceptance of purchasing report for the period June 2nd to August 4th, 2011. 3B24, consider authorizing administration to enter into an interlocal agreement with Dallas County Schools. 3B25, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 09-08-071-2 for painting services. 3B26, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 10-07-131-2 for carpentry supply and equipment. 3B27, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 10-06-241-2 for student nutrition ice cream. 3B28, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 10-06-231-2 for kitchen vent-a-hood service. 3B29, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 10-05-281-2 for kitchen equipment maintenance. 3B30, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 10-05-181-2 for dish machine and cleaning supplies. 3B31, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 10-05-271-1 for athletic equipment and supplies. 3B32, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 08-05-191-3 for grocery and catered foods. 3B33, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 10-05-141-2 for printer cartridges. 3B34, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 10-06-151-2 for clinic and trainer supplies. 3B35, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 10-06-041-1 for language arts materials. 3B36, consider exercising the extension option of RFP number 08-05-131-3 for workers' compensation third-party administration, specific and aggregate stop-loss insurance and loss control. 3B37, consider declaring vehicles 133, 142, and 398 surplus and authorizing them for disposal. 3B38, consider declaring furniture, audio-visual equipment, and technology equipment surplus and authorizing them for disposal. 3B39, consider approval of minutes of Board of Trustees work study meeting held June 2nd, 2011. 3B40, consider approval of minutes of Board of Trustees regular meeting held on June 2nd, 2011. 3B41, consider approval of minutes of Board of Trustees work study session meeting held on June 23rd, 2011. Board members, does anyone wish to pull any items from the consent agenda for further discussion? Mr. Shore?
Madam President, I'd like to pull B2.
Thank you. Are there any others? Ms. Lawton?
Yes, I would like to pull B20.
Are there any others, or do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Ms. Klein, I would move that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Mr. Shore?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? That is unanimous. Mr. Shore, item B2.
With respect to reviewing TASB Update 90, first thing I'd like to state that if anybody has had trouble sleeping, read TASB Update 90. You will not have any problem after that. Having said that, there are 3 provisions of that I think we need to examine. They deal with board training and orientation. They deal with access to student information and access to public information. What I want to make certain that this board does is that we entertain those 3 areas before we approve, if we approve TASB Update 90.
Is there any discussion on that?
Ms. Klein, would it be appropriate for us to have a subcommittee that would take a look at this particular policy and come back and make some recommendations to the board?
I'm thinking it would be an excellent idea to have Mr. Shore chair a subcommittee of 3 that could meet officially and have some staff support. And I am soliciting volunteers for that committee.
I'll volunteer.
Mr. Shore and Ms. Webb have volunteered. I think we need one from this end of the room. Is there a volunteer willing to spend one evening? Frank, Mr. Shore, Mr. Fleming said he would.
We will be efficient.
Mr. Shore promises an efficient meeting style. I appreciate the volunteers on that.
Ms. Silas, Ms. Shore, any background and any legwork materials you need for that, we'll be glad to do for you. We'll fix that up for you.
No dose.
It was short and efficient, was it not?
That's correct.
And I'll point out that was just the first reading of TASB Update 90, and our second reading will be in September, Dr. Burns?
Right now we have it scheduled for the 25th, since we were going to have a small consent agenda on that as well. But we could do it on the 1st.
I think it would be helpful to have it on the 1st so that the committee could have a chance to look at this and come back to the board with some recommendations.
Yeah.
So we won't take it. We do need to go ahead and take action on B2 since it's just a reading.
I think since you're just looking at it as a first reading, the September when we put it on, if you choose to adopt it or exclude it, then you can at that time.
Okay.
It'll be fine.
So we're ready for B20? Ms. Lawton?
Yes, this deals with the NNAT standardized test that is administered annually to kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade levels. I understand that there is a state mandate that requires that some type of testing be done in order to identify our gifted children. However, this test cost us close to $84,000, and having given this test to kindergartners, I'm questioning, and I would like Mrs. Stalboy to address it, because we give 2 tests. We give the KOI, which is a series of activities that the children do, and it's pretty well determined by the teacher as to the qualifications for the child. And then we also give this NNAT standardized test, which I understand is quite streamlined now and it's done on computer. But I'm questioning the purchase of the expense of $84,000 for a test. And then both of them also require teaching time out of the classroom. So I would just like to have Mrs. Charboy talk to us a little bit about testing.
Is she prepared to?
Yes, I was wondering. All right,
Good evening. Yes, the NNAT, the Naglieri, we have provided this for about 8 years, I believe. The state mandates that every kindergarten student is screened for a gifted program. And we have found over the years that this is the best tool. It's an assessment. It's an assessment of ability. It's nonverbal. It's non-biased. It calls that layer of students that we can then take a look at more closely for our gifted services. It's a good tool. It's not, we've determined along with Dr. Hastings that it is not a standalone. It's the first step in the process to identify our gifted students. Along with that, we partner the KOI, which is the King-Gore Observation Inventory, and that's a good, description of it. It is just an inventory, but those two partners partnered together has raised our process greatly to look at all students, whether they are, upper socioeconomic, low SES, all backgrounds and experiences. It's not a perfect situation, but I feel confident in the process, and it's a strong beginning step. What else can I share with you?
You think it's really important for kindergarten and first grade level?
I feel it's very important, and we can talk more in depth and maybe get perspectives from a variety of teachers. The NNAT and Dr. Hastings would be better suited to talk about the logistics actually of the administration of it. It's quick and streamlined online for the kids. Especially kindergarten. If we don't do the NNAT for our kindergartners, we have to do something. And the KOI, I do not feel, there are quite a few districts in the state that do provide the KOI alone solely, and I would not stand behind that process at all. So if we don't administer the NNAT, we have to find another tool.
Why did we do the KOI then?
Pardon me? Why?
It also takes teaching time. I'm just concerned about the amount of time it takes to teach, the teaching time. And, we do so much testing all across the board. And, this is not the only test we give in kindergarten.
Right.
There's so many other screening,
Right. Well, like you said, the NNAT is an assessment / like a test. The KOI are activities, and our master teachers can utilize those KOI activities multiple ways. It's an excellent resource, and it's peppered through, I believe, about 8 weeks in the fall. And again, it just kind of calls out the ability that could be masked through other behaviors. For that child who is silent and quiet and not very, verbal, it shows the ability of creativity and variety of other. Yes, Mr. Shore?
I don't want to cut you off.
That's okay.
If we approve this purchase, is it for this year? It's for how long?
For 2011-12.
Not for 12-13.
The 1 year
No.
purchase?
Yes, a year by year.
Okay. And so perhaps if this is not something that's as efficacious as we want it to be, we can take it up at the next board meeting as part 2.
Yeah, because the next budget's around the corner.
Well, did I hear you say that this is an easy test to administer?
Yes.
Perhaps a thing to do this coming school year might be, you clearly had a bad experience. Perhaps it might be appropriate to observe it this year and see how it's changed, because
the teachers that I've talked to, that were my former partners, they say it's no big deal. It's no big deal. But
no big deal in the administration?
Well, yes, but they've done it for so long that it's no big deal to them anymore. But it's like anything else, once you get into the midst of doing it, but I'm looking at $84,000, and I'm looking at the fact that that it's still a test and it still takes teaching time. And those are my biggest concerns about any kind of testing. And I know that it's not the only test that we give in kindergarten or first grade or the rest of it. I can even see more value at second through fourth, because I think that
it's just K1, 2. It's just administered in kinder, first, and second.
That's her problem.
kindergarten, first, second.
Yeah, I know.
But it's illegal. It says K through fourth.
On the online, does it go to fourth?
Right here on the agenda item, it says 1 through K to second.
And it can be used to K through.
Yeah, correct.
Have you guys measured measure that in quantitative data? I mean, as in the past. I mean,
Dr. Hastings.
Well, have you guys measured the test in quantitative data as far as, obviously it must be some type of, it must have pretty good results, I would take it, since you guys in the past.
We look at the data every year, and again, its primary use has been as a screening tool, but it also is used as a guide for the teachers to look at students who may be facing some challenges to their learning processes. And so while it's not a part of an identification for other types of groupings besides the potential for GT, it is also a piece of evidence that is sometimes used in identifying students for other specialized programs. And so we do look at the data for a variety of issues. I would like to address for a second the dollar issue. We had a committee a couple of years ago that looked at our entire state national testing program, and we went to this configuration for Nagliari and dropped at other grade levels where we had administered the Otis Lennon.
Is there any action we'd like to take on B20?
Ms. Klein, I would recommend that we approve the district's recommendation on item 3B20.
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, that's 6-1. Got this. So at this time, we're ready to move to item 3C, report on 2001 appraisal rolls and certification of the estimated debt collection rate.
Ms. Hyde, are you ready to?
Yes, sir. Dr. Burns, Ms. Klein. This begins the procedural steps to completion of our budget and the actual technical requirements for the budget. We take these steps first with the tax rolls and the tax rates, and then we'll follow up on the 25th of this month with the actual consideration of the adoption of our complete budget. This time I'll turn it over to Ms. Halsey to introduce the item.
Thank you. Under Section 26.04A and B of the Texas Property Tax Code, the registered Texas assessor collector for the district is to submit the 2011 certified appraisal rolls. And under Section 3307, 33.08 of the Property Tax Code, the registered tax assessor collector for the district is required to estimate a debt collection rate for the tax year of 2011. Our tax assessor collector is Ms. Anna Brady, and she will read this report to you now.
The net taxable value for this year, which includes the rolls of Dallas and Denton combined, is $13,889,472,257. This is a 1.72% reduction from the prior year. And this year we have an estimated debt collection rate of 100%.
Sounds good.
Board members, are there any questions?
No. This is just a report. It's just statutorily required. It requires no action from the board. Obviously, the observation of note is decline in the tax valuation. I believe it was 1.70, not as dramatic as some of our neighbors, so I guess we should be happy about that. We'll have a slight negative impact on our debt service tax rate. Ms. Halsey will explain that a lot more in detail when we do our budget conversation. But if there are no other questions, we've fulfilled our statutory requirement on that item just by presenting the report. Ms. Halsey?
She needs to go to the next
So
slide.
3D, is that where you're, consider all matters related to the certification of the 2011 appraisal rolls?
Thank you. And in this one, we have a couple of resolutions. With your permission, I'll read the first one.
Yes, please.
Whereas in accordance with Section 26.4A and B of the Texas Property Tax Code, the tax assessor has submitted to the Board of Trustees the Dallas Central Appraisal District and the Denton Central Appraisal District's 2011 certified appraisal rolls showing the total appraised, assessed, and taxable value of all property of the school districts, as well as the total taxable value of new property in the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District that the district does hereby approve from its assessor on this date the said appraisal roll for the district showing the following amounts. Total appraised and assessed value $15,874,667,838, less ag deferral and exemptions of $2,159,755,375, less capped value loss of $3,891,688. That leaves a net taxable certified roll of $13,701,020,775. Estimated taxable value under protest is $188,451,482. Net taxable with estimated protested taxable value of what Ms. Brady said, of $13,889,472,257. The total taxable value of new construction included in total appraised and assessed value is $99,851,996. No property annexed since the preceding year. Passed and adopted this 4th day of August 2011. There's another resolution. Do you want to take them separately? You want me to read the second one?
Go ahead and read the second one, please, Ms. Halsey.
Okay, here we go. The second resolution, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District that, pursuant to the Texas Property Tax Code, Section 26.4B, the district does hereby accept from its assessor her certified estimate of the anticipated collection rate for the school district in the current year, 2011, in the amount of 100%. The district further accepts the assessor's certification that there were no excess debt taxes collected in excess of in the anticipated amount for the preceding year, 2010, passed and adopted this 4th day of August 2011.
Are there any questions or discussion? Or a motion? James?
I move that we adopt the two resolutions as read.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Chaffin has seconded that motion. All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Thank you very much.
The next item is 3E, consider approval of board meetings and board work study sessions for 2011-12. Dr. Burke?
Yes, Ms. Klein, members of the board, you have before you in your packet there the dates that the administration has put together regarding your board meeting regular board meetings for next year, as well as the work studies that you identified in June. And in addition, we've gone ahead and identified a team of 8 date for you for your calendar, if everybody can look at that to see if that would work. It seems like you didn't have enough to do in October, so we added another one there and that one for you. But we can entertain any questions you might have regarding the proposed calendar and work studies. Would note for the audience that it is consistent with board policy that the board meetings will be held the first Thursday of every month, with the exception of January. In this case, which due to the winter break, it will be the second Thursday in January.
The date identified for the Team of 8 training is October 20th. So if you would check your calendars and email Dr. Burns if you do have any conflicts with that.
That is obviously flexible. We just wanted to get all the dates on everyone's calendar. That is a 4-hour, though. So
yeah, instead of a whole Saturday, you were wanting to do this instead.
Yeah. So, but it would be a full 4-hour Thursday evening.
Point of clarification, I believe we are mandated that everyone participate.
Yeah.
Correct. For us to get credit for Team of 8, we all 8 have to be there.
And what Dr. Burns is emphasizing is we may need to go 6 to 10 or 5 to 9 or something along those lines to get the full 4 hours.
Yeah.
When does it have to be done by?
December 1, I believe. Or no, I think we've done it end of December.
By the last meeting, December.
Yeah, end of December. If you'll recall, we were doing the work study topic discussion back in June. I think Ms. Whiten brought up a good point about you just come from summer leadership, and we really didn't have any way to kind of dialogue regarding the sessions you might go to. We thought October might be a good time because you'll have come back from TASB in September, and we can incorporate maybe some discussion time with what you learned in that Team of 8 in October while it's fresh on your mind. So that's kind of the rationale behind an October date. And we didn't have another meeting in October, so.
I understand for Mr. Shore's benefit, it should be late in the evening. Is that correct?
A late start?
If we start at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'll be right on time.
But I won't. So is there any...
we start 4:30.
That sounds much better, thank you.
Anybody that would like to do the motion?
Ms. Klein, I would like to recommend that we accept the meeting presentations for board work study meetings and sessions as defined in the administration's recommendations.
Second by Mr. Good.
I second it.
All those in favor? All those opposed? That's unanimous. I would ask Ms. Scrivener to help us get that on our calendars quickly. 3F is designation of TASB conference voting delegate and alternate. This is one thing that the board likes to do each year. Our packet includes a list of who has been our delegate the last 2 years and our alternate. And we're looking for volunteers for this. Mr. Shore?
Well, she's done such a great job. I don't think that we should disrupt the streak that she has. So, unless someone wants to discuss this, I would nominate Lynn Chapman for that and Richard for the alternate.
I second.
All those in favor?
Well, I thought Ms. Chapman was going to say something, but all the...
Ms. Webb was about to offer that she would be the delegate this year. That's absolutely fine. We'll
She did last year, didn't she? She was social last
be the delegate? The primary?
No, I thought you'll be the primary. I'm the secondary.
Okay. All right.
Senior.
Rearrange my motion.
Okay. All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Get Ms. Whiten second, I believe.
Yeah, she's second. Yeah.
Ms. Chapman and Ms. Klein.
At this time, item 4 is comments from board members, and 4A is comments regarding posted agenda items. Are there any comments from the board? Item 5 is for a closed meeting. Dr. Burns, do we have any items for closed session tonight?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay, by my determination, we have reached the end of our agenda, and we are adjourned at 9:36.
Good job, guys.